Bonjour, hi everyone. Welcome to all of you, and thanks for joining this special webinar about the economic impact of aviation and the future of flight. I will be your host today. My name is Amandine GICQUEL, ENAC Alumni MS MTA 2004. I've been very lucky to work for IATA for the past 19 years and a half. My current role at IATA is Manager Industry Relationship for the country office, Canada and Bermuda, and I'm based in Montreal. I have the pleasure to be part of the ENAC Alumni Boards of Administrators. I lead also the ENAC Alumni Canada chapter, and I volunteer as the Quebec ambassador for Elevate Aviation, which is a platform for women and underrepresented groups to thrive and succeed through careers in aviation. And today I have the pleasure to be moderating a wonderful panel of some of the most inspiring and talented people within our industry. So I introduce you to them. Félix EGGERT, Communications and Policy Advisor at the Air Transport Action Group, known as ATAG. He's based in Barcelona. And Félix is kindly filling in for Aldain Dodd, who could not join us today, unfortunately. And he sends his sincere apologies. So thanks, Félix, again. There is also Nina Brooks, Executive Vice President at the International Coordinating Council of Aerospace Industries Associations, known as ICCAIA. And she's also the chair of the Global Aviation and Aerospace Skills Taskforce, known as GAAST, and she's based in Montreal. And last but not least, we have Valérie GUENON, VP Product Environment Policy at Safran, and she's based in Paris. So a warm welcome to the three of you, and thanks so much for your participation. We have an hour to explore the pivotal role of aviation in global economic development with a sustainability angle to it. And we'll dive into the challenges and opportunities shaping the sector, from innovation in sustainable aviation fuels, known as SAF, to the policies driving the sector's sustainability efforts. So hopefully that will include some time for Q&A at the end. I already invite all of you in the audience to use the chat function of this webinar to ask your question as we go. So without further ado, let's kick off. And we'll start with the first part on how aviation supports global growth, prosperity, and job creation, and all that sustainably. And for example, at IATA, part of the mission is to represent the airline industry. We improve the understanding of the air transport industry among decision makers, and we increase the awareness of the benefits that aviation brings to national and global economies. And we've been releasing some value of aviation reports by countries to support our advocacy efforts. And many of our industry partners have also promoted the benefits of air industry widely, and it's the case of ATAG. So I have a first question to Félix. Félix, could you tell us a bit more about the ATAG benefit Beyond Borders global report that was released last December, and what stood out from it?
Sure. Thank you, Amandine. Hi, everybody. ATAG is the Air Transport Action Group, and to those of you who don't know ATAG, we represent the entire air transport value chain, from airports to airlines to manufacturers to fuel producers to air navigation service providers and so on. And our main mission is to help the industry within its to reach its net zero goal of net zero carbon emissions by 2050. And the other mission is to highlight the socioeconomic impact that aviation has around the world. And this is where this comes in. The Aviation Benefits Beyond Borders report is a publication that we compile and update every 2 years. And it highlights, it puts a global perspective on aviation's impact on jobs, on economic growth, and economic impact in terms of value, in terms of GDP impact, gross domestic product. And I thought it might be interesting to just kick off with a couple of highlights from that report. We compiled it in collaboration with Oxford Economics, and it comprises 2,000 data points from our member organizations and also from economic research. If you go to the next slide, I think you might have to kind of help me click through the transitions here. Yeah, but this is a snapshot of global aviation in 2023. Really just a bird's eye view on, if you go back once, thanks. Just a bird's eye view on the number of commercial airlines around the world, over 1,000 airlines, serving more than 4,000 airports around the world with the help of 162 air navigation service providers. In 2023 alone, 4.4 billion people took to the air and were carried by airlines around the world on more than 35 million scheduled commercial flights, serving 67,000 routes globally, with a total RPK of 8.17 trillion. And all of this was carried out by almost 30,000 commercial aircraft that are in service today. Little fun fact here, largest commercial airline by passengers is American Airlines. By fleet, it's United Airlines. United has more than 1,000 aircraft in their fleet. Largest airport by passenger numbers is Atlanta, with more than 100 million passengers globally. And if you only look at international passengers, that's actually Dubai. They saw an increase of 30%. 2022 to 2023 obviously is a bit deterred because we had COVID before. But they're serving more than 80 million passengers as well. So just a couple of interesting facts here. If you go to the next slide, please, then you will see the other side of the report. And if I say the other side, and if you see the global numbers, passengers and aircraft and airports, and you see here the number of jobs and the economic impact that is supported by aviation globally, then we only show you the global numbers because we don't have as much time. There is a big regional part within the publication as well, and a big national part as well that highlights the national and regional stats for these figures. Now, if you look at the global numbers here again, 86.5 million jobs are supported by aviation. Now, that includes those employed directly in the aviation sector, from airlines to airports, air navigation service providers, etc. The number of indirect jobs, those are suppliers, think fuel suppliers, think construction companies, think IT companies, etc. You have 17 million induced jobs. What are induced jobs? Induced means all the people that are employed in aviation and within the indirect scope of aviation supported jobs, they get a salary, right? And they spend that salary on restaurants and groceries, etc. So those are the number of induced jobs. And then you put the catalytic impacts of tourism around the world on top of that with 37 million jobs supported by aviation in tourism, and you get to 86.5 million jobs. Now you have the same methodology derived on the economic impact, $4.1 trillion in GDP supported in 2023 by aviation. That is almost 4% of the global GDP. If aviation were a country, it would rank about 20th in terms of size, in terms of economic impact, so about the size of Saudi Arabia. If you go to the next slide, and then you can click one more. We also have some forecast scenarios within the report on the growth of those jobs and of traffic and economic impact over the next 20 years. So it looks at 2023 versus 2043. And this is a central forecast scenario, which obviously takes into account certain things in 2023 that were not as concerning as they are now for the growth of aviation, such as free trade policies and free movement and so on and so forth. All of this kind of feeds in here. But bottom line is aviation will increase and passenger numbers will increase, right? So we expect we expect jobs supported by aviation to increase from about 86 million to 135 million in the next 20 years. Next one, please. In terms of economic impact, you'll see it'll almost double from 4.1 trillion to 8.5 trillion. And then one more. and revenue passengers will obviously follow the same pattern. Now, if you go to the next slide, please. Now that brings us, obviously, with growth comes the growth of emissions as well. And obviously, the global air transport industry has a goal of reaching net zero carbon emissions by 2050, and actually offsetting this growth and bringing emissions down to zero carbon emissions. Now, this graph highlights, you look at the red kind of dotted line there, it highlights where aviation, civil aviation would be today had we frozen all efficiency measures in 1990. If there hadn't been any improvements since 1990 in terms of fuel efficiency, in terms of operational efficiency, technology, etc., then we'd be at 5,000 million tons per year emitted by 2050. Now, obviously, we have taken measures, and the industry has taken measures, has actually decreased decreased its carbon emissions by 55% since 1990. And the blue line is where we are at today. And where we're at today, the blue line kind of also leads that path up to 2050, where we would be if we were to freeze again efficiency measures where we are today. So we'd get to about 2,000 million tons. But obviously, we want to reach net zero, and net zero is a combination of scenarios on how to get to net zero. And each of these scenarios comprise certain actions within technological developments, innovation, operational efficiency measures, fuels, sustainable aviation fuels, and market-based measures. And obviously, that requires a skilled workforce. It requires the generation of tomorrow to lead this change. Not just to 2050, but beyond. And I think this is what we'll touch on today. So thank you for this, for the opportunity to provide a little bit of insights on aviation benefits, Amandine.
Thank you so much, Felix. I'll get the link to your report for the audience later on when we'll send the recording. So thank you again. Now I will turn to Nina. So Nina, what are ICCAIA's strong commitments to the vital work of ICAO and its growing influence in shaping the future of the aviation industry?
Thanks, Amandine. And that is a really big question. So I'll start with my ICCAIA hat on, and I know we'll move on to talk about workforce and GAAST a bit later. ICCAIA, for those who don't know, and I do see some familiar names on this call, but for those who don't know, we represent the aerospace manufacturing and services industry. Our primary purpose, if you like, is to support the work of ICAO. So that's really the main function that we perform by providing subject matter expertise into the various panels and the groups of ICAO, advising on the challenges and identifying future needs for the industry. We aim to ensure that standards are practicable, so achievable, and support the economic growth of the industry. Across all subjects, it's been interesting for me being part of ICCAIA, just seeing the breadth of the subjects that are covered for the manufacturing part of the industry. We're committed to constantly improving safety, security. Obviously, a big part of it is driving towards the long-term aspirational goal for net zero carbon emissions for 2050, as Felix mentioned, building resilient systems, innovating for the future across all different subjects. And as Felix also mentioned, this needs to be backed by a skilled workforce and a resilient supply chain. So all of that comes into it as well. I thought rather than just talking in broad strokes, it might be interesting to give a couple of examples. We've got the ICAO General Assembly coming up next week. This is a really significant meeting for us. It's the opportunity that comes once every 3 years to influence the work program of ICAO and to bring forward some of the subjects that are really key to us, on top of the work that's already going on in ICAO. So the 3 subjects that we're really focusing on in our working papers next week, firstly, halon. We have a real challenge in the industry that halon is used for fire extinguishing systems for the cargo compartment. That's now a banned substance because it's on the list of ozone depleting substances. But despite many years of research and testing, no suitable replacements being found. So it's ICCAIA's role in an issue like this to bring this to ICAO and to seek alleviations and long-term solutions. So that's just one example of the types of issues that we face that we would bring to ICAO. Secondly, cybersecurity. I think, this is a really big subject. It's going to be a hot topic at the Assembly next week. We have a patchwork of regulation, and we're looking at a holistic approach across the world and in ICAO in the way that regulation's implemented. I think that's going to be a really interesting test case for AI, and we see that being another big subject of discussion at the Assembly. Lots of papers on artificial intelligence. How do we have a common baseline for certification regulation? And the third subject for us is interference in GNSS signals. It's critical for air navigation, and we're looking at the acceleration of the development of standards to detect, report, and technical solutions to be more robust in our systems. And then we also will be talking about workforce, accessibility, artificial intelligence, climate change, advanced air mobility. So it's a really broad subject, and I think that just demonstrates the breadth of the work. And the one other piece I wanted to mention, in terms of what we do at ICAO, is outside of the assembly and panel work. One of our major projects over the past 2 years has been working with ICAO and the states and the Secretariat on a new process called the Standardization Roadmap. This comes under the innovation portfolio, and it's a new process. We're just starting at ICAO to be able to inform ICAO better about what's coming, what new types of aircraft, what new means of propulsion, all aiming towards the LTAG, and being able to be proactive, if you like, and saying, look, this is what we expect to happen when. So that's been a really big, important piece for us as well. So I hope that kind of gave you a taste of the sort of things that we're doing.
It's perfect, Nina. Thank you so much. So now I'll turn on to Valérie. So Valérie, you're leading the environment product unit at the multinational aerospace company Safran. With the expected growth in the air traffic sector over the next decades, as Félix mentioned, how can original equipment manufacturers, or OEMs, address environmental concerns of that growth and support the industry's net zero transition?
Okay. Good evening. I hope you can hear me well. Well, good evening to everyone. Thank you for attending and for listening to this webinar. Yes, well, traffic growth. Félix has made a very good introduction of how traffic growth could result into tremendous emissions growth if we did nothing. The good news is we are doing things. We are doing something, and we've been doing a lot in the last in several decades. OEMs, we have been addressing the concern of the of those emissions by basically, when I say OEM, so speaking about aircraft manufacturers, engine manufacturers, equipment. We have been improving the energy efficiency of the global fleet. So the energy efficiency of the aircraft itself, with a very strong contribution of the engine, it has a big role in the energy efficiency. And airlines and traffic control have also worked on the energy efficiency through the air operations. So airlines operations, air traffic control measures. All those efforts have led to a fuel burn per passenger and per kilometer that has been divided by 5 in the last 6 decades. So it's not the same number as the one Félix gave, but it's totally consistent with the Félix gave a number from the 1990s. In any case, we have been extremely successful in improving this energy efficiency of the global fleet. So now speaking about Safran, so Safran has, first of all, we have a strategy and objectives for decarbonizing our industry operations. So basically decarbonizing our operations until we sell our products, before we sell our products. And then we also have a strategy for decarbonizing the use of our products, because the use of our products makes the most of our carbon footprint. It makes 90% of our carbon footprint. So this decarbonization strategy is based on 3 pillars. First pillar, you will not surprised, is to continue improving energy efficiency. So we have done it, we have been successful, we know how to do it, and we still have good news is we still have room for improvement. It's a big technical challenge, but we are addressing it. So the objective is to deliver engine and equipment which are better with highly energy efficient aircraft, no matter which fuel is used. No matter which fuel is used, we need to use less. So for doing so, Safran Aircraft Engines, together with GE Aviation, so these 2 companies are the parent companies of CFM International. We are conducting a research and technology program for the next generation of engines that aims at an additional 20% additional energy efficiency on the engine itself. Then there is also energy efficiency on the aircraft. So that's a very big program. We already have 2,000 engineers working on it, 250 tests have been performed, and we are continuing. Safran is also not only an aircraft engine manufacturer, but we are also an aircraft equipment manufacturer, and all those equipments that we deliver, they weigh a lot, and so there is a lot of potential for reducing the weight, and we work through advanced materials, advanced design, manufacturing processes. So that was the first lever. Second lever is to support its SAF, basically to support the ramp up of SAF. We are not in the middle of it, but still we have a role to play, and in particular to ensure the compatibility of our future products with 100% SAF. We also we have invested in a company that makes e-fuels, for example, to support that. Third lever is to pursue and continue the progress of electric and hybrid propulsion. And in particular earlier this year in February, we certified for the first time, the first electric engine was certified by EASA. It's called the Engineus, and it's an engine developed by our company Safran Electrical and Power and Safran helicopter engines.
Thank you so much, Valérie. It was a great overview. So, given what we've just discussed, the traffic growth, the challenges we're facing, environmental and sustainability, what you've been working in your respective areas, we could wonder what skills and expertise will be required for the future aviation workforce as the industry navigates this net zero transition we've been talking about. So Nina, I'll start with you. Given your role in the Global Aviation and Aerospace Skills Taskforce known as GAAST, What do you think are the opportunities for partnering, with ICAO's next generation of aviation professional programs?
Thanks, Amandine. Yeah, the number of staff that we need in aviation and aerospace is quite honestly mind-boggling. This is a really big issue, and I'm very happy to be chairing the GAAST. I think it's a good initiative with lots of potential to partner with others. You mentioned the NGAP program, ICAO's program. That sets some quite ambitious objectives, and quite broad objectives, looking at addressing the aviation industry's growing need for skilled professionals. Fundamentally, the issue we're looking at, and ensuring a sustainable and mobile workforce, promoting, attracting, recruiting, training, and retaining a diverse and inclusive pool of aviation professionals. So I think that pretty much covers the whole world of what we're trying to do. GAAST's own objectives really tally with those aims perfectly. We've been working over the past 2 years, and we now have about 100 organizations involved, to bring together, discuss, share guidance, best practices, case studies, and examples in all of the different areas of the industry. And that's really the drive right now. We're in the delivery phase of part one of GAAST, if you like, the first 2 years. Because we recognize that there's some really great programs out there, many of our members, but also we're working with ACI and IATA and everyone to look across all of those different great programs and say, well, how can we share all of this? How can we actually make this available for the benefit of everybody? Perhaps if you don't know how to even start going about having a program that attracts young people or retains staff in different areas. So there's a lot of synergy there. I think for the future, we have a lot of opportunity to partner with NGAP, from sharing our materials and findings, but also participating closely in ICAO activities and capacity building workshops across the whole industry. So I think as we move into the next set of deliverables, and that will be defining at the end of this year, we'll really be looking to see how we can work closely and contribute to NGAP. The strength of GAAST has really been its diversity of membership, from cargo to manufacturing, airlines, ground handlers, states, companies, individual organizations all contributing. So I as chair, I really want to make sure that we continue that and make sure that we do dovetail now with NGAP's activities. And I think there's a lot of benefit to be had from each other. So yeah, really looking forward to the next phase of GAAST. Thanks.
Yeah, and thank you. And thank you for all the work that is being done with this group. I know IATA is part of it, and it's great to see, all the progress made and, and all the work that is being done. So thank you. Valérie, I'll turn to you now. The aviation benefits report shows that women make up only 17% of engineering jobs in aviation, and only about a third of executive leadership roles in the industry are held by women. So in your views, what needs to be done for the industry to close the gender gaps in technical and executive roles?
Well, closing the gender gap. I would like to say that I've been in the business. I mean, I've been with Safran for 37 years, and I've been with my studies before for 40 years. I can testify that there has been a lot of progress. That's really the good news. Closing the gender gap, we're not yet there. There are, well, in my view, there are two questions. There is what needs to be done for the industry and what can be done by the industry. So for the industry, what do we need as an industry? What we need more women that graduated in science and engineering or more women that are simply interested and motivated by our sector. You know, they can graduate in finance, in political science, whatever, but they need to be interested and attracted to our sector. So that's what we need. And in order to change that, it's a very wide subject. It is the result of history. It is the result of a continuum of social, economic, psychological, historical mechanisms. So that requires a lot of actions, research, education of girls and boys, public policies, communication, the role of media. So there is a lot to do. So this is not in our hands as the industry, but I am just giving the message that there is a lot to do. So now I can speak about what we are doing from our side, and I can testify what Safran is doing. So our first action is to hire women. So as I said, it is a challenge. So you gave a number. Again, I have another number, but it's not the same perimeter. So in France, women represent 25% of the manufacturing and aeronautics industry. So at Safran, we are almost 30%, and we are at 37% for the recent recruitments. So there is a real effort for recruiting women, but there is so much we can do, of course, because of what I just said. Once the women are in, we also have to take care of their career. So we have quantitative objectives for a number of women in leading roles at a certain age or a certain date. And so for that, what do we do? So first of all, we support the creation of women network. So for example, we organize events where they invite very successful women that have inspiring experience, and it creates this network of women. We offer a specific training for identify high potential women. So we ask managers to identify high potential women. And this step is very important because women often do not identify themselves as high potential. So when a manager goes to them and say, we identified you, it changes something. And then we offer this dedicated training. We created this training when I was myself leading the Safran University, which is our training organization at Safran, and we created this training, and I experienced it myself. I wanted to test it, so I can testify that it's very useful at any age, and we have very good feedbacks, and it also contributes to the women's network. We also have some companies of the Safran Group that organize mentoring. Mentoring is another way. We also have a duty of raising awareness against all types of discrimination, and we have put in place an ethical alert setting. And finally, we support the associations that reach out to school kids, students, and, again, back to we need more women to study and to be interested in our sector. That's it for me.
Thank you so much, Valérie, and bravo to what Safran is doing with the program to have more women in the organization and how to retain them. What you said before also about what the industry needs to do is music to my ear, and I think we could spend another webinar on this topic. So maybe we can plan that for later.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. And now I'll turn to Félix for another question regarding skills specifically. So with the 2050 net zero goals that the aviation industry committed to, which skills do you think and which expertise in sustainability will be needed in the future?
Yeah, I think if we were to list all the skills, and all the skills that are needed to get to net zero in the complexity that we have in order to get there, we'd still be sitting here tomorrow and list all the skills. But I think there are two things that we can focus on, no? Because A, the complexity that I mentioned is the path to net zero is really a mix of things and how to get there. It requires new fuels, and those fuels need to be produced, right? And for the production of those fuels, there are certain pathways in order to produce them. And there are new pathways that are being certified as we speak that will hopefully help scale the production of sustainable aviation fuel and bring down the price. So it's about the research and technical expertise that go into fuel production alone. But then, of course, on the OEM side, on the manufacturer side, you have those engineering and technical capabilities that are important as well. You have a lot on it cuts into the finance space as well, right? We need new finance mechanisms in order to account for emissions reductions and certifications and so on. So there's really a whole lot of things that the aviation industry needs. And one thing is the to build those skills and make sure that they're applied at the right time in the right companies within the industry. But then it's also about the transfer of those skills and the knowledge that we have to other countries. So one example is that developing countries over the next 20 years will play a major role in the production of sustainable aviation fuels, right? Just because there's the feedstock availability. Some companies, some of ATAG's members or member organizations are sustainable aviation fuel producers, and they build production plants in developing countries and in Asia Pacific and Latin America, and those countries will significantly contribute to the production of SAF over the next years. But obviously, they might not have the workforce that they need right now, so they need to attract people somehow to move there to participate and work in those companies and at those plans. But not just the actual people, but also the knowledge that you have and the information and research that is being done. It's important that there are mechanisms to share this information and to share the knowledge within the industry from developed to developing countries. And obviously that relies a lot on finance and who has the money to do the research, and then how can we share it, right? And how can we then apply it? Another, it's not just SAF, obviously, and I mentioned, more efficient equipment manufacturing, but it could easily apply to hydrogen, electric, and hybrid propulsion systems. No, those are very new systems that are still in development phases and that will play a large role more towards the 2040s, 2050s, and beyond period, where a lot of research and a lot of development needs to go in. And I think the platforms that Nina and Valérie mentioned are contributing to that, are an extremely important tool to facilitate that exchange of knowledge. And just a little teaser on Monday. We'll actually announce something similar that will be focused more on sustainability at the ICCAIA Innovation Fair. So watch this space. There will be an announcement coming exactly for that, because more of that exchange is needed, more of that knowledge transfer from established leaders to young leaders is needed in order to really build and equip the next generation of leaders in aviation sustainability with the right tools, with the network, with the right knowledge. And it's a huge challenge, but I think we as an industry can really support there by providing these types of platforms and fostering that exchange.
Thanks, Félix, and we all look forward to getting more news about what's coming up on Monday. We'll be watching the space for sure. Thank you. And taking advantage of each of your key role in our beautiful industry, I'd like us to talk about what will the future of civil aviation look like. So we're gonna look now at challenges and opportunities shaping the sector, from innovation to the policies driving the sector's sustainability efforts. So Valérie, I'll start with you. What are the main supply chain challenges facing the development of environment products at OEMs like Safran, and what strategies is the industry adopting to overcome them?
Yes, well, the supply chain challenges, I would say we have supply chain challenges, objectives. They have really, they don't depend whether we're working on environmental products or not. They are always the same. They are on-time delivery, they are quality on the backdrop of flight safety. So they are not specific to environmental products. We do have a challenge currently with the growing demand. The whole sector, I think, has a challenge. Aircraft manufacturers are putting on us a very big pressure so that we can deliver our products to them to respond to the demand. So we have a plan. We work. So our industry department, industry quality and progress department has a plan, works very carefully with all the suppliers. We are continuously improving the performance of our suppliers on our current products in order to respond to the demand. Now, this being said, in addition, as I mentioned, we also have a plan for decarbonizing our industry operations, and our industry operations includes the supply chain. So for this plan, we have additional actions to embark our supply chain and to measure its impact in terms of carbon footprint. So what we have done, we have engaged our top 400 suppliers in a decarbonization path. So the top 400 suppliers, they represent over 80% of the CO2 emissions of our purchases, which themselves represent about 70%, 80% of Safran's industrial emissions. So it's a big chunk of Safran's industry emissions. So we have engaged them in this in this plan. Well, they have taken objectives. They have a plan. They present a plan to us, and we measure their progress. So that's one thing. Well, it's particularly important because we have to reduce. Well, we have to reduce and we have to disclose what we call the supplier's scope 3 emissions. So the scope 3 emissions are those emissions that are not directly related to our use of energy, basically. So it includes a very wide range of emissions, including the suppliers. So we embark the suppliers, but in order to declare the scope 3 emissions, we also need to develop the right measuring and the right evaluation methods. And in particular, we have to do so in coordination with the other manufacturers, even with our competitors. So we really have to ensure this coordination across the competition. And that's the beauty of environment. It forces us to coordinate across the competition. And another way to coordinate is also the fact that because we are dealing with supply chain, we can use the collective power of the associations. So in France, we have GIFAS. We work closely with GIFAS, the French Aeronautic Industries Associations. In Europe, we have ASD, Aerospace and Defense Association. And there is an international setting, which is called the IAEG, the International Aerospace Environment Group, which is an international organization that addresses specifically these environment matters. So through these groups, we can very conveniently reach out to our suppliers, so as Safran, but I would say more generally to all the suppliers of the sector.
Thank you so much, Valérie. Now I turn to Félix to talk about policies. So which current policies are most influential in driving the aviation sector's transition towards sustainability? And where do you see the biggest gaps and opportunities for improvement?
Yeah, I think with the ICAO assembly coming up next week, it's also an opportunity to highlight the important role of ICAO, of the International Civil Aviation Organization, to unify not just the industry, but really all stakeholders behind the long-term aspirational goal of net zero emissions. And if you look at that and make it more concrete, then I think the carbon offsetting and reduction scheme for international aviation is one example of a scheme that unites more than, by now, more than 130 governments behind it to address emissions growth over the next years. And the carbon offsetting scheme is one of those harmonized regulations that we need more of, right? More of in the industry in order to decarbonize, because what we cannot have is a patchwork of different regulations all around the world, and everybody's doing their own thing. But we need really a multi-stakeholder dialogue to move this transition forward and take the right actions. And if you ask about, what should be the main kind of improvement points, or which we should focus on, I mentioned the topic of sustainable aviation fuel, which is the main contributor and remains the main lever in driving the net zero transition. Now, sustainable aviation fuel will make up about between 50 and 70% of emissions reductions if we want to get to net zero, right? So we'll need about 500 million tons a year of SAF. Right now, we're producing about 2 million tons, right? So we're behind, and SAF production is not scaling fast enough right now. So there need to be policies in place in order to scale the production, to de-risk, and that's what it's mainly is about, to de-risk investment in production facilities, in the conversion of existing refineries, and to really provide long-term certainty for the finance community, for investors, for fuel producers, for airlines and airports, for everybody in the industry to really get behind sustainable aviation fuels and be able to purchase that at a good price, right? Now, the good news is that there are already 45 countries in the world, governments in the world, that account for about 65% of global jet fuel use, that already have SAF policies implemented or are implementing them, right? Many airlines have also committed to the uptake of SAF, but now it's about providing the right regulatory framework around that. And I mentioned the pathways earlier, and I see two questions here in the chat. We'll probably get to those after, but it kind of links to that, because obviously we are currently limited in not just the supply of feedstock available for the production of SAF, because we mainly use the HAFA pathway using fatty acids, but there are other pathways already approved or in approval that will help scale production. One of those is power to liquid, or taking carbon out of the air and essentially producing SAF. But that currently is very expensive, so it needs the right investment mechanisms to and the right certification and approvals to scale and make it scalable and make it attractive for the industry. But SAF is obviously not the only field. I mentioned hydrogen before and hybrid electric. Like we need more research in those areas, and we need governments to support that research. Again, ideally in a way that is harmonized and kind of coordinated on a global level. And I think ICAO will have an important role to play in also in the future, even more so now, in uniting the industry and coordinating governments and the industry and all the stakeholders involved. One important aspect, just coming back once more on fuel, One important aspect is also to hold fuel producers accountable. And I'm talking about the big oil companies that I don't know if you saw the news. Shell, I think it was, withdrew from their plan to build a SAF plant or biofuel plant in Rotterdam in the Netherlands. And now they're currently backtracking or stalling on the production of SAF, right? And the production of SAF can be encouraged through, it can be tax incentives, can be subsidies, etc. But then it needs to be done in a responsible and very careful way, in a way that holds fuel suppliers accountable. A situation that we have right now in the EU with the Refuel EU Aviation mandate, which basically requires fuel producers to produce a certain amount of sustainable aviation fuel, is that few producers just won't do it. And they will charge, they will rather pay a fine and charge it as a premium on top of SAF prices and sell it to airlines at an even higher cost. So really, these regulations need to be well balanced and well thought out. And I think there's a lot more work to do.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Felix. One last question before we actually, close the panel and go to the Q&A. I'm conscious of the time. So Nina, I have a question for you. With the aviation sector facing labor shortages, what strategies are most effective in attracting and inspiring the younger generation to pursue careers in the industry?
Thanks. Yeah, back to the job market. And I think this all ties together. Yeah, we already heard about the need for young engineers and scientists to contribute to this whole, drive towards a sustainable future. What we've heard from the members of GAAST and from our own members and across the industry is that accessing the job market is challenging. Employers need experience, but school and college leavers need opportunities. And it's that eternal problem of getting the right people with the right skills or being able to train them and offer them opportunities. So we see a great deal of success in apprenticeships and sponsorships and internships to get young people on board and actually get them practicing in a real world environment and develop them that way. So that's very attractive. What skills do we need? Kind of all of them. But as I said, yeah, scientists, engineers, cybersecurity is going to be huge. And we are in competition. And that is a big challenge for aviation. We compete with large companies and consortia that can pay a lot more money than we can necessarily in aviation. And that's a big problem. And we need to have transferability and mobility of skills as well. Getting young people, going back even to school-age children, demonstrating the wide range of opportunity that's available and inspiring some excitement is really key. We do have a bit of an image problem, so I think making sure that they understand they can make a difference, so they can contribute to how aviation evolves is really important. But really getting to grassroots, like school visits, getting young people to be ambassadors and demonstrating what they do, hands-on programs like rocketry challenges. So there's lots of opportunity and lots of different ways of doing that. One key thing that I'll leave this subject with is reaching out through their own channels. We are terrible at just talking to ourselves. Young people don't want to see LinkedIn posts. We need to be on Instagram. We need to be out there talking to them in roadblocks and, actually communicate in the way that they need to be communicated with. So that's one of the things we're looking at in GAAST and what are the right ways to do this. So.
Perfect. Thank you, Nina. Yeah, it's good comments, I have to say. We have to adapt to the younger generation that is coming up. So thank you for all that. And thank you so much to the three of you for this very engaging conversation. Really appreciated. We have a couple of minutes left, and there are a few questions on SAF. So I know that Felix, you alluded to them earlier. to the topic of SAF. So there is a question from Mathieu. He's saying, what will be the source to produce SAF to reach 100% SAF in our industry? And when do you think this will be possible?
Right. Well, ideally by 2050, but I think the coordinated goal is about 90% of SAF by 2050. But on the pathways, as I mentioned before, now about 80% of SAF is produced using the HAFA pathway, meaning we use acids and waste oils and so on and so forth. And for the near term, this will be the main production pathway, but more in the pipeline. I mentioned synthetically produced SAF, and power to liquid. So 11 pathways are approved. 11 pathways are currently pending approval. Once we have those, that will give us a lot more opportunity and a lot more possibility to scale production.
Perfect, thank you. And there is another question that I see on SAF. It says, and I don't see the person who wrote it, but Africa complained that there was little SAF production planned in their region. Will there be plans to transport SAF to countries and regions less advanced in SAF productions?
Right, and that would be probably contrary to what we want to achieve, right? To load tank trucks full of SAF and then have them drive around the world and produce or ship it with big bunker boats. So that's not what we want to do. But obviously, we need to encourage the production of SAF in those regions. So it links to my previous comment and how there needs to be long-term policies, and we need to de-risk the investment. And it's also about developed countries supporting developing countries through development banks, for example. But I want to also highlight something that allows the production of SAF in those regions, and actually companies in more developed countries or Europe, anywhere, to benefit from the carbon reduction. And that system is called book and claim. It basically allows companies to book the use of SAF for their own carbon reductions while it is being produced elsewhere. So take an example, an airline wants to fly with SAF. They might not fly with SAF on their flights within Europe, but they might purchase SAF in Latin America from an airport and can still claim the carbon reductions and the emission certificates. Now, the SAF will actually be provided to other planes, right? To other airplanes and aircraft, and actually be used and will be flown with SAF. It's just somebody else is paying for it, and then there's this mechanism. And I think book and claim is an important mechanism that needs to be expanded. Yeah, that's one kind of creative solution on how developing nations can participate in the energy transition as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Felix. And I can't believe it's almost time to conclude this webinar. I wish we had more time. And if there are questions in the chat that we see we didn't address, we'll try to do it and send you the answers by email when we'll reach out to you to send you a message with the recording of this webinar. So Nina, Valérie, Félix, it's been a genuine pleasure to have you with us today. Thank you for your time and for all the information you shared. Thank you a lot. And I'll probably see you in Montreal next week. Have a wonderful and successful assembly at ICCAIA. And thank you, Estelle, for coordinating this webinar on behalf of ENAC Alumni, as usual. And thanks, Felix, again to you for supporting in the making of that session. So I would like to thank the audience for having listened to us today and for your engaging questions. And take great care, everybody, and see you soon.